This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Going to see mass evictions, and if we're not addressing that across the board, Indianapolis is going to have a problem that we've not seen before.
New at 11, could Indianapolis's homeless situation be getting worse in 2020? And is coronavirus to blame? Tonight, we hear from people who work downtown and from people trying to help those without a place to go. Thanks for joining us here at 11. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starrentino. Tonight, RTV6's Cameron Riddle takes us downtown where community organizers fear the problem is on the brink of getting worse.
In downtown Indianapolis, the issue of people experiencing homelessness is a problem that's hard to miss.
What's going on the Circle is a crisis. There is a homeless crisis. There is a public health and safety crisis on the Circle.
Homeless neighbors are not new to downtown, but a decrease in activity because of the pandemic is highlighting the number of people who have nowhere else to go but the street. Members of the Alliance for Homeless Transformation fear the past 5 months have only been the beginning of a massive problem.
We know that right now we have 15,000 homeless in Indianapolis. Once the moratorium on evictions comes, you will probably see 60 to 70,000 homeless in Indianapolis because individuals are out of work and then have no way to pay their rent because they didn't have the funds before.
On Monument Circle, Giorgio's Pizza is fighting through the pandemic, but with the added issue of its homeless neighbors often sitting outside the door or, in worse cases, relieving themselves near the entrance. George Sturgiopoulos is part owner of the restaurant and says homelessness on top of COVID-19 is not a good mix.
Not only do we have a big homeless issue, we also have the COVID situation. And unfortunately, our homeless friends do not practice social distancing, and it becomes very difficult. So when somebody comes to sit at one of our tables here and somebody's hanging over them, that becomes an issue for people feeling comfortable and safe.
Sturgiopoulos is joining the growing calls to city leaders, asking for a safe place for the homeless to go, ideally a place with resources to help these neighbors get back on their feet. He stresses that the people you see here are human and, like businesses, deserve to be represented too.
A lot of people, especially a lot of our elected officials, will talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk. That's the problem. And you know, they are the leaders. And again, don't put politics in the middle of this. The day you're elected, you work for everybody. And that's what they need to realize.
Downtown, Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
And just today, the city of Indianapolis announced a plan to provide housing and health services to Indianapolis residents experiencing homelessness. The city says the pandemic created a gap in services for the city's homeless residents, leading to the temporary closure of shelters like the Rubin Engagement Center, also known as the REC, where social distancing isn't possible. The city is now partnering with the REC and several organizations to use hotel rooms as an alternative for people experiencing homelessness.
We can learn on Wednesday during the state's weekly briefing whether Governor Holcomb will extend Indiana's moratorium on evictions. And right now, it is set to expire at the end of the month as thousands of Hoosiers are struggling to make ends meet. Fortunately, Hoosiers have been stepping up with donations to organizations like St. Luke's on West 86th Street. They've been able to help hundreds of families stay in their homes.
We had a very generous member of our church who anonymously donated $50,000 with the condition that our congregation match that donation. And so then we were able to raise over $100,000 for rental and utility assistance.
Church leaders say they expect the need for rent assistance to grow as the federal government's $600 weekly unemployment payments expire and businesses struggle. If you need help paying your rent, head to our website, theindychannel.com/rebound. We have information there on state and county programs as well as others like St. Luke's. Senate Republicans unveiled a new $1 trillion coronavirus relief plan tonight. The plan includes another round of stimulus checks. It cuts enhanced employment benefits from $600 to $200 a week, and it would allocate billions to testing and reopening schools.
A developing story out of Brownsburg. 4 people were taken to the hospital, including a juvenile who was in critical condition after a structure collapse at a construction site. This happened as storms moved through this afternoon. Brownsburg Fire says 1 person was trapped, but other workers were able to free them. Checking in now with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory to see if there are any other storms to worry about tonight. Kevin.
And our risk for any severe weather very, very low. Not anticipating that. There are still a few downpours around. May contain some gusty winds, and this is really through about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. To the north we go. You can see barely some of the colors hiding from us here underneath Kokomo, just crossing the bypasses and move across 31 right in the heart of Howard County. Other downpours near Frankfort. See how hit and miss they are? We're not all going to see additional rainfall, but you may at some point while you're sleeping wake up to the sound of a heavy downpour. Temperature 72 in Peru right now, 73 in Indianapolis. Watch as we go through the overnight. Everything sliding to the south, setting the stage for some significant changes to tomorrow. We'll have plenty of sunshine around and temperatures 78 by 11. We'll go through the other changes coming up.
Face coverings are now required in public places statewide, and Marion County has shut down bars and is limiting capacity in other places. So are these measures enough to once again slow the spread of COVID-19? We asked an expert at the Regan Street Institute.
I think we're hopeful that these new measures will help to slow the growth of the virus because, of course, as we all know now, and we can watch the data on a daily basis, we're seeing an increase in that test positive rate, which is concerning.
Dr. Granis goes on to say we can expect to know if the new measures put in place are working in about the next 2 weeks. He also says evidence and studies continue to show that face masks and social distancing cut down on community spread and helps people know if we follow the guidelines, we can get back to some sense of normalcy quicker.
During the first phase in March and April and May, we showed that Hoosiers know how to slow down the spread of coronavirus. And I think we are ready and we are prepared and we are armed with great information to be able to slow this spread.
The Regan Street Institute has a COVID-19 dashboard where they compile data from across the state. It breaks the information down by county. That way, you know exactly how coronavirus is impacting your community. And this chart shows the number of positive coronavirus cases reported by the State Department of Health since last Wednesday. An additional 561 positive results were reported today. Monday's totals are typically lower since less testing is done over the weekend. A total of 2,709 Hoosiers have died from COVID-19.
Tonight, there are promising new developments for a COVID-19 vaccine. Biotech company Moderna is moving into the next phase of testing with tens of thousands of American volunteers in dozens of states. ABC's Ramina Puga has more on the race to find a vaccine.
A major milestone in the battle against the novel coronavirus. Biotech company Moderna is entering phase 3 vaccine trials.
This is enormous. We've been sitting on the sidelines passively, attempting to wear our masks and social distance and not go out when it's not necessary. This is the first step of becoming active against this.
30,000 Americans are expected to volunteer for the clinical trial, which hopes to be the answer to the deadly virus that has now infected more than 16 million people worldwide.
There's very little that we can do to combat this virus. Being able to participate in this trial has given me a sense that I'm doing something.
Moderna's vaccine was among the first to begin testing in humans. Dr. Anthony Fauci has been monitoring their progress since January.
The more people that are protected in society, the less chance the virus has to spread rapidly.
And the U.S. government just invested another $470 million to help its latest trial. Monday, in an ABC News exclusive, the chairman of Moderna offered insight into their progress and taking into account the country's hotspots.
Certainly, we will be doing the tests in areas where there is a significant viral challenge so that the test can actually very quickly see whether we're giving the protection.
Moderna's chairman says we can expect the vaccine might be available for some Americans late this year or next year. The director of the National Institute of Health is cautiously optimistic.
This is with some caution, is that by the end of 2020, we will have 1, 2, or maybe 3 vaccines that have been proven safe and effective.
Vaccine development is moving at an unprecedented pace, but he emphasized that safety was still the top priority.
People, please don't worry that this is somehow sacrificing safety.
Vaccine development has been moving at an unprecedented pace because of Operation Warp Speed, with almost 24 companies now in clinical trials. But the NIH director emphasized that safety still remains a top priority. In Colorado, Romina Puga, ABC News.
Greenwood City Court is rescheduling all of its court cases this week because of several coronavirus cases. Judge Louis Gregory tells RTV6 officials learned last week that 3 courthouse employees tested positive for COVID-19. The courthouse will be closed all week to disinfect the building. Officials are monitoring the situation closely with their other employees. The courthouse is set to reopen August 10th.
Still ahead, colleges and universities are spending money to get money. A Newsy investigation is digging into lobbyists paid to push for more federal funding for institutions across the country.
But first, some of the mental health signs to watch for if you're struggling to decide which school option is best for your child.
This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Districts across the country are working to get kids safely back to school for this unprecedented year. And with many local schools holding off on in-person classes, parents may feel anxiety about their role in the e-learning process. We've heard from many concerns from parents in the spring who felt they weren't tech savvy enough or couldn't effectively assist with virtual lessons. We turned to several educators to get advice for parents and learn about new resources out there for families. A Franklin College graduate, now in her 7th year of educating children, has launched a new program for parents and their children. Lori Hargrove founded Learn with Lori. It's an online service that addresses the struggles that might come in this new age of e-learning.
I heard a lot of times just families say, I need help, I need help, I need help. It's just trying to be a solution for families who need help with virtual learning assignments. They may not know the new strategies that we're implementing in math or maybe sometimes even language arts.
I think sometimes parents maybe feel the pressure to become the teacher. And really what we want parents to feel, we want them to feel supported from the teacher and not the need to take the place of the teacher.
You just heard from the principal of Mount Comfort Elementary School in Greenfield. She says her district has spent the summer preparing their teachers, giving them ideas and best practices for virtual learning. She is hoping parents reach out to teachers as a resource so that home and school can work together.
Central Indiana school districts continue to modify their back-to-school plans as guidance changes to keep students as safe as possible. Some families are trying to determine whether in-person or virtual learning will work best. Ashar Kwarshi is looking at warning signs your child might not be ready to go back.
As athletics programs begin to restart, 14-year-old Amina Ahmed says she's ready to get back into the swing of things.
So I really want to see friends and see teachers and being actually inside the classroom because it really helps me.
Still, there is uneasiness about whether a return to the classroom could lead to an outbreak.
Some people really are kind of worried about how many students are actually going back and how many people are going to be there.
Politicians, school administrators, and parents are weighing the potential risks of returning to the classroom. As coronavirus cases surge across the country, experts say the psychological toll on children needs to be addressed. Dr. Tali Raviv is a child clinical psychologist who specializes in student mental health and resilience.
One of the things that we're seeing a lot is that after being away from that routine for a long time, it is normal for families and for youth to be concerned about how is this going to be.
The American Association of Pediatrics says the benefits of in-person learning outweigh the risks, and the AAP strongly advocates that all policy considerations for the coming school year should start with the goal of having students physically present in school. But mental health experts say it's important to understand how each child feels about going back.
Because it's a very different situation if a child is worried I'm not going to have my best friend with me in my little pod than if they're saying I'm worried I'm going to get sick and die or you're going to get sick and die.
Signs that they're anxious about returning to school include any significant changes in sleep, falling asleep, staying asleep, not wanting to sleep alone, or having nightmares, changes in appetite or a lack of appetite, headaches or stomach aches, being more irritable, frequent meltdowns, and withdrawal from friends, family, or other activities. Dr. Raviv says if the anxiety is debilitating, it may be time to see a professional. For Amina Ahmed, her school's hybrid alternating in-person online program has put her mind at ease for now. Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
As the new school year approaches, you can find the latest info from local school districts and tips to navigate this unprecedented year at theindychannel.com/safely back to school.
I have not seen any lightning with this broken line of downpours. It stretches from near Crawfordsville up through Frankfort to Kokomo and Marion. There's a closer view of this. These are just hit and miss showers with some heavier rain drifting to the south and east. It's all part of a transformation to cooler temperatures for tomorrow. There's one area of rain about ready to cross 231 just to the southwest of Spencer. Headlines for tomorrow: cooler temperatures, the lower humidity. That's easy to say. It was so humid today before the thunderstorms. Hard to believe it could be more humid, so we'll be feeling better tomorrow, along with plenty of sunshine. Let's call it somewhere between pleasant and a little bit on the sticky side. It just won't feel tropical. We can thank the change in wind direction. Wind out of the northwest will grab hold of some drier air and somewhat cooler air and make for a nice day. Both tomorrow and Wednesday should be great days. Lots of sunshine, temperature still about 85 for the afternoon high, but we dial back the humidity just a bit. Temperatures to the north, 83 in Kokomo, could hit 87 anywhere south of Bloomington and Columbus. Next 2 days are dry. The next chance for more widespread showers and thunderstorms will arrive on Thursday, especially in the southern half of the state. Wednesday's temperatures mid-80s. Could be just a little bit warmer in a couple of spots as we go through the day. 85 is still the average high for this time of the year. We're right at it or a little above. You'll see in the extended forecast, many spots just hover around 80 for the high on several occasions. Wednesday night into Thursday, you begin to see the next weather system that's going to have its impact, bring some showers and thunderstorms southern half of the state in the afternoon hours on Thursday. Once again, we may have some heavy downpours because the humidity will be back. Temperature of about 82. As you look at the weekend, 80 both days. Chance for a shower or thunderstorm at 30%. We'll continue the theme with a low chance for thunderstorms and relatively comfortable high temperatures around 80 through early next week. Overnight low temperatures consistently in the 60s instead of overnight lows in the 70s. It will feel better. Mark?
All right, Kevin, thanks for that. Hundreds of people and hundreds more in the coming days will honor John Lewis, the civil rights legend and congressman who died this month at the age of 80. Lewis's body was taken to the U.S. Capitol today, where it is now lying in state, an honor reserved for the country's most prominent leaders. ABC's Reno Roy shows you how the man known as the conscience of Congress is being remembered tonight.
The body of John Lewis was led by police escort on a touching farewell tour of some of Washington's most iconic landmarks: the Martin Luther King Memorial, the National Museum of African American History, and Black Lives Matter Plaza, where he made one of his last public appearances. A final journey through the nation's capital before lying in state at the Capitol Rotunda.
Here in Congress, John was revered and beloved on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol.
The civil rights icon represented Georgia in the House for more than 30 years, where today lawmakers in the lower chamber unanimously voted to rename a voting rights bill after him, a fitting tribute for the man credited with changing history.
Today, we pray and trust that this peacemaker himself now rests in peace.
Both former Vice President Biden and Vice President Pence paying their respects as Lewis lies in state. However, President Trump says he will not. The two had a contentious relationship. Lewis skipped Trump's inaugural address and each of his State of the Union addresses except this year's. In Lewis's home state of Alabama, red rose petals scattered on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where he marched and bled for the right to vote on March 7th, 1965, the date later became known as Bloody Sunday. This past Sunday, he crossed that bridge one last time. Lewis returned to the bridge in Selma year after year, bringing bipartisan delegations with him, most notably in 2015 with President Obama, who credited Lewis with helping working to make his presidency possible. Lewis wasn't just a powerful advocate for African American rights, he was widely admired because of his principled stand for justice for all groups, including for the rights of LGBTQ Americans, the parents and children of immigrants held in camps while seeking asylum, and for the many victims of gun violence in America. Lewis's body will be taken outside of the Capitol tomorrow, where he will lie in state, and people can pay their respects while still staying safe during the coronavirus pandemic. Rena Roy, ABC News, Washington.
TV legend Regis Philbin will be remembered by family and buried in Indiana. Philbin died Friday from natural causes at the age of 88. His funeral will take place on the University of Notre Dame campus. Regis was a Notre Dame alum and a huge fan of the Fighting Irish. Tomorrow, ABC will remember Regis with a primetime special. Regis Philbin, the Morning Maestro, will air as a special edition of 2020 Tuesday night at 8 o'clock here on RTV6. We'll be right back.
This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Colleges and universities struggling through the pandemic are spending money to get money from Washington. A review by our partners at Newsy found dozens of schools are paying lobbyists to fight for more coronavirus emergency aid. Patrick Terpstra explains.
Oregon State University prepares for a fall semester like many schools, in a deep financial hole because of the pandemic.
We could see as many as $80 to $120 million in losses.
Yet we found colleges and universities are still budgeting money to pay lobbyists in Washington, as they do every year. Now they're focusing on finding more coronavirus emergency aid. Congressional filings we reviewed show 80 schools, big and small, private and public, paid lobbyists to work on COVID-related issues in the nation's capital. Oregon State continued to pay its lobbyists $55,000 last quarter, a tiny fraction of its billion-dollar-plus budget. Records show the work was focused on stabilizing education and science in response to COVID-19 disruption.
How important or not is that aid from Congress?
And this economy would not be able to support students' educational needs without federal assistance. The university can only do so much.
The CARES Act gave higher education $14 billion, but that was back in March.
The CARES Act money went immediately.
Colleges are facing reduced enrollment, possibly no revenue from football, and shortfalls in state funding. Lucrative research has been disrupted, and universities face lawsuits from students who feel like they're not getting their money's worth learning virtually.
So there are a whole host of issues that we are dealing with.
Schools told us they're also lobbying for more aid to students. Half of CARES Act funding in spring went directly to students, including Jose Apalaya. The Cal State senior saw his hours as a paid tutor go down, while new expenses of online learning went up.
Transitioning into the online setting, definitely like investing in a laptop, investing in ebooks and things like that.
He got $600 from the CARES Act, available to students already on financial aid.
It helped out tremendously.
Part of a lifeline universities are desperate to renew. Patrick Terpstra, Newsy, Washington.
Hiring Hoosiers is connecting you to job opportunities as the financial impact of the coronavirus continues. We are teaming up with the Indiana Black Expo for a virtual Hiring Hoosiers Employment Opportunity Fair on Thursday from noon until 4. To get connected, visit indianablackexpo.com.
And we're not quite done yet. We've got a few showers for the overnight hours, at least in the next 2 or 3. Then by 3 a.m., most of that should leave. More comfortable tomorrow and noticeably cooler temperatures really Thursday through the weekend to look forward to. Amanda?
Thank you for making RTV6 your choice for news. Good Morning Indiana starts at 4:30. Good night.